Hi everyone, it's Paul Maunder from Production Expert here, and in this video we'll be taking a look at Weaponiser from Krotos Audio. Weaponiser is described as an all-in-one layering solution for sound design. It's a plugin which is available in VST, audio units and AAX formats. As the name suggests, it allows you to create weapon sounds, but there's more to it than that, so let's jump in and find out a bit more. So I've added Weaponiser as an instrument plugin in this Pro Tools session, and I've actually loaded the Clean Start preset. The plugin contains 4 main engines labelled as onset, body, thump and tail. The included sounds are all categorised with tags, so I'm going to choose weapons and single shot, and you can audition any sound just by clicking on it. Each of the weapon sounds is recorded from a range of different perspectives, so you can see we've got some which are 5 metres away, others which are at 3 metres, there's 100 metres, 50 metres, there's a whole host of different options. This AK-47 single shot should be a decent starting point, so I'll drag it into the onset engine. Onset is the initial attack part of the sound. You can press the fire button to trigger the sound. Here you can see a representation of the waveform. The selection that you make governs which part of the sound will actually be used. So if I, for example, narrow this down, we're just going to have the initial attack and not so much of the tail. Next, I'm going to find something for the body engine. And having already listened to some of these sounds, I know that there's quite a good Dragunov sound. You'll notice that within each engine there's 4 separate banks, so you can layer sounds. If I, for example, dragged another one into this one, they will actually be layered together. What's worth noting as well is that you can drag up to 5 sounds into any given bank, and rather than layering them, it will cycle through them, so it allows you to add variance. Plus, it's also possible to vary the speed of playback. But for now, let's go to the Thump Engine. And whilst I could potentially drop in some more samples here, I'm actually going to utilise the FM synth at the bottom here. In fact, you'll actually find an FM synth in the onset and body engines as well. Let's just see what happens if I activate this. Straight away that's added some real weight to it. If you want to solo any particular engine, you can do so over here. Let's hear that on its own. And of course you could, if you wanted to, modify the envelope characteristics, but I'm quite happy with that, so I'll stick with it for now. Next, let's jump into the tail section, and I'll go back over to the search tab and just type in the word tail. I think I'm quite happy with those. I'm going to actually drag 2 of these in to the same bank just to add that little bit of variety. In fact, if we're doing 2, let's do 3. So now that I've got a decent weapon sound, let's use it to put some sound to picture. I'm going to be working on a short section from a trailer, which has kindly been provided by Scott Bass. Before I do this, I just want to mention the fact that Weaponiser is a MIDI plugin, so if you've got a keyboard connected, you can trigger the sound from the C4 key. Of course, it's velocity sensitive, so how hard you hit the key determines how soft or hard the triggered sound is. You can also trigger any of the individual engines from the plugin using the keys on screen. Let's take a look at the section we're going to be working on. Currently, only one of the gun sounds is there. The others need to be added in. Okay, as you can see in this Pro Tools session, I've created a track of markers in the form of blank clip groups, which just give me an idea of when the gun sounds need to be triggered, and also the durations. Within the plugin, there's also a burst mode option, which means if you hold down a key or the fire button within the plugin, then you'll get a continuous fire. Now that is very quick. So the rate of fire here, the fire rate, I need to drop it down a little bit. Maybe that. Right, let's give it a shot. That's not bad. You can see I got the timing slightly wrong, so it's really easy, of course, with MIDI just to edit it. So if I switch it into notes view, I could perhaps trim these down so that they're closer in length to the markers which are dropped in to begin with, or you could just shuffle them along. Now you can hear that's playing back as I drag it. That's just how MIDI works in Pro Tools. That's fine. Maybe we can just check it through. Now let's add in another layer of detail to this. So I've got a second track here, and I've called it Bullet Casings. And of course, when you're using Weaponiser, you're not just limited to the included sounds. I've actually created some Foley bullet casing sounds. So these are the sounds of bullets falling onto a concrete surface. And so what I'm going to do here is just drop them into here, and I'm going to drop them all into the same bank so that it'll cycle through them. So now every time I trigger the keyboard, you can hear it's playing a different sample. Okay, so let's do another record pass. I mentioned earlier that Weaponiser isn't just limited to weapon sounds. You can use it for triggering all sorts of things in a sound design workflow. And I've used it, in this case, to create some footsteps. Using some of the pre-included samples, I've done some footsteps on concrete using the same method, triggering them from a keyboard. I'm just going to show you the result of this. And there's a section later on which does still need some footsteps. So you can see I've labelled this one metal footsteps because they run down a metal staircase, and I've created a track for it. Footsteps, metal, and you'll see within the Weaponiser plugin on this particular track, I've loaded one of the included presets called Boots on Metal Heel Toe. So all I need to do with this is run the sequence. I'll play it from a little bit before, trigger them from the keyboard once again. Each individual key press will represent an individual footstep. And I'm going to make this a little bit easier on my computer's CPU by freezing the tracks, which I've already done. Okay, here goes.
Great work, G-Squad. Move down the stairs and through the walkways. It'll take you through to the next building.
Great, and if you want to hear that in isolation, let me just play that in solo. Of course, you may want to add a reverb to that, but it's a really good sound, really quick and easy to do, much quicker than manually cutting in footstep samples. And of course, if you don't have access to a Foley studio, you can do this from home very easily. One last thing, I've put a couple of extra markers in here for single pistol shots. Let me just play this section, which still needs the sound. Okay, that should be easy enough. And I've created another track here called Pistol, and on this one again, I'm using one of the included presets. This particular one is a Beretta pistol. So that's a really quick overview of Weaponiser from Krotos Audio. Thanks for watching.